Hello, my name's Simon Crafar. We're at Mugello, beautiful Mugello, in the pit lane, in the LCR garage with the machines of Alex Marquez. This week's Tech Talk is about tyre pressures. Wait, there's a lot more to tyre pressures than you can imagine. And if the teams don't get it right, the rider can't win. Road tyres, there's a way bigger working window, pressure and temperature-wise, because there has to be safe, Cold mornings, hot summer afternoons, it has to work in all conditions, but when I say work, the level of performance is lower. When you get to this level of performance, like in every domain, the working window gets smaller to reach that performance. And when I say working window, minimum and maximum pressures. Minimum, they're not going to create as much temperature because bigger contact patch. It works the rubber in that area less, causing less temperature. But also you get less stability on brakes. For example, you can squash that tyre, the bike gets heavier, harder to turn in. And on the rear, you're going to get more pumping, less temperature. Too much pressure, it reduces that contact patch. That contact patch gets worked harder, creating more pressure, creating smaller contact patch, more heat, it keeps going. So the other thing is, once you get outside that window, too much pressure, you're going to have less grip, maybe front locking, more spinning for sure. Then, when I say pressure increase because of temperature, I'll just quickly explain, they're filled with air. And the air, as it heats up, expands, and that's why the pressure goes up. In MotoGP, they use dry air, so special compressors to take out the moisture. And so you see a little bit less than half of the increase. For example, track days, I'd put a rear wheel in at lunchtime and predict the temperature I would need cold for running temperature on track, and I'd put, with a fast rider, I'd put 14 PSI, which is 1 bar, to reach 22 PSI, hot off track when I checked it, and what's 22 is 1.5 bar, okay? So you get half a bar increase with a fast rider. I'd see 0.3 bar, which is about 5 PSI, with a normal track day guy, good rider. So you'll see around half of that with these because of that special dry air. Then the Michelin technicians get very good at predicting what their machine and rider that they're looking after need as a cold pressure before the teams heat them and the rider rides on them. They constantly predicting, that's my job, that's their job. But this is difficult stuff because every rider uses the tyres differently, how they apply the throttle, how they brake. Some riders want more support on the brakes or more feel, more. But also every machine uses the tyres differently, meaning if the traction control lets the tyre spin more, it's going to create more heat. If the suspension puts more force into that tyre, it's going to create more heat. So the Michelin guys have told me, believe it or not, there's not one rider in the pit lane that uses the same. They're all different. Cold pressures, to arrive at that correct optimum pressure, temperature. So can you imagine how difficult it is if you've had no dry time, You're about to send your rider out for the first time on slicks, and it's a race, and you have to predict the pressures. And if you don't get it right, you're not going to win. See you in Catalonia for the next Tech Talk.